Okay, let's go over the 3 biggest mistakes that you're making when it comes to your chronic knee pain. My name is Dr. Claire. I'm a doctor of physical therapy. I've also had 5 knee surgeries, so I know a thing or two when it comes to knee surgeries and recovering from knee injury. I've also helped thousands and thousands of people with knee injuries, and these are the 3 biggest mistakes that I made myself and I continue to see people making. Number 1 biggest mistake is people prioritizing stretching over strengthening. I can't tell you how many times people ask me, Dr. Claire, what stretches should I do for my knee pain? I'm going to say 9 times out of 10, I'm giving them a strengthening exercise and not a stretching exercise. And there's a reason behind this. I'm going to show you guys a picture that shows you exactly what you're doing when you're actually stretching a strained muscle. So here's a picture of a muscle strain. I know we're looking at the upper back here, but you can look at that bottom picture where there's muscle that's how it should be, nice and uniform, close together. It's a strong muscle. The striations are going up and down. The picture at the top there is a muscle strain. You can see there's enlargements almost of that muscle. That's because of inflammation. They're spread apart, so they're not close together. And then there's actually little micro tears in the fibers themselves. And this happens, a strain is tears in the fiber. People don't typically realize that. So if you're stretching a strained muscle, you're actually stretching something that's already has micro tears in it, and it's just going to get worse and worse. So a lot of people think they need to stretch when they have an injury. That's oftentimes actually not the case. We want to put the body in load so that it stimulates the body to grow new muscle and lay down new tissue so that it looks like that bottom picture there and not like that top picture. Another example, but we're looking specifically at a calf strain. So you have those little micro tears that are in the actual fibers themselves. I want you guys to look at these little micro tears that are happening in the fiber themselves. And this is what is happening when you strain your calf or something like this. And so I don't want to be sitting there doing a calf stretch for, minutes every single day. That's going to only make that worse. So we need to strengthen the calf muscles, strengthen the muscles that have these strains in them. And maybe you don't necessarily have a muscle strain, but you can imagine same thing with a ligament. If we are stretching an already strained ligament, that's going to hurt. So when people ask me for a stretch when they have something going on injury-wise, I most likely am not going to give them a stretch, and that is number 1 big mistake. Number 2 big mistake is being fearful of certain movements or just not moving your body at all. I get it, when you're in pain, you don't want to be making anything worse, but when you're sedentary, it's going to make it worse. There's so many studies that show actually being active, especially during injury, you're going to gain more muscle, gain more cartilage. So I'm going to show you guys actual physical pictures of people that are sedentary versus active, and you can see the difference. So this was a study looking at 40-year-old triathlete, 74-year-old sedentary man, and then a 70-year-old triathlete. And just look at the difference here. So yes, we have a 40-year-old triathlete here. This is how strong muscle should look. It's going to be very uniform, very tight, congruent. Then we have a 74-year-old sedentary man. This is actually adipose tissue. So this is just fat. The white part is just fat. The darker part is actual muscle, and you can see it's not uniform. It doesn't look great. There's some holes in it, right? And then you come down to a 70-year-old triathlete. Look at that compared to the 40-year-old triathlete. They look exactly the same. So when people say, oh, it's age, right? You're just going to feel worse as you get older. Not true. It's not true at all. It's all about, are you staying active, right? And so a lot of people will avoid movement because of knee pain. That's actually one of the worst things that you can do. You're going to end up like this 74-year-old sedentary man. That's what your muscle's going to look like, and we don't want that. And that leads to more pain and more dysfunction, and then you're more sedentary. So that's just one example. Now, this is the actual process that the body goes through when it's creating more bone. So you'll hear a lot of people say running's bad for you, squatting's bad for your knees. So not true. None of it's true. Your body feels that stimulus, and it's going to actually grow new muscle, new cartilage. It's going to lay down new bone and new tissue because it's smart. It's not going to wither away when it feels like it's having compression or load through the specific joint. What happens when you're not moving is your body views that as, we don't need that area, so we're just going to let that decay. We don't need it. We're going to let it get weaker and more porous over time. So strength training is one of the best things that you can do. Do not avoid movement. If squats hurt, they hurt for a reason. There's probably underlying issue. Lunges, all that kind of stuff. I once too avoided these movements and I was in crippling knee pain. I now do these movements and I have zero knee pain. There's a lot of research behind it showing what the body actually does when it's creating these new tissues, and it takes loading the joint in a specific way. So again, mistake number 2 is avoiding specific movement or just not moving at all. Your body is made to move, we just need to move it safely. Number 3, the biggest mistake that I made and a lot of people make is ignoring the hip and the feet. This is something that I didn't do in the beginning of my training. I was very focused on my quads and my hamstrings and really just focusing at the knee specifically. And I was missing a really big piece of the puzzle because I had hip weakness, I had foot weakness, and you'll see what happens when you have weakness at those 2 joints and how they directly correlate to the knee. So here's an example of what I'm talking about. If we look at the hip and we get internal rotation of the hip where that hip is caving in because of glute weakness, that's going to cause the knee to cave in. And same thing goes with the foot. If that foot gets close to the ground, if you have flatter feet or you don't have great muscles of your feet, that is also going to cause that internal rotation at the level of the knee, and that's going to grind specific parts of your knee, specific ligaments, specific areas with cartilage. All that kind of stuff is going to wear down over time if you're constantly putting unnecessary strain and stress on specific structures that aren't meant to handle it. So if we ignore the hip and if we ignore the foot, we're going to be missing a big piece of the puzzle when it comes to the knee. And this is why I harp on it on my Chronic Knee Pain Fix course, because this is so important and oftentimes missed. If we look at this picture, not a great picture, but a little blurry, but we get the point here. When you have that knee valgus going on, it's going to put a lot of pressure on the inside of the knee or stretch the structures on the outside of the knee. And that is often caused by that foot going inward or even at the level of the hip. So this is why we address these things. We can't just address the strength of the knee. We have to look up and down the chain. So I'm going to show you one exercise that's actually in my course that I use to address the hip and the foot when it's correlated to knee pain. Let's get to work. We're going to use a thicker band tied to something sturdy that's going to be wrapped around your knee, a thinner band that's going to be below tied to something sturdy that's going to be around your foot. Your outside leg is going to be in this band, so knee right across the kneecap with that band. Same thing here, going to go over top of the foot. So not at the ankle, a lot of people do that. That's not what I want. I want it over top of the foot like that. So if you were to let these bands win, it's actually going to collapse your knee, right? So that foot will go in, that knee will go in because of hip internal rotation. So the way that we move that is we do hip external rotation and we create an arch with the foot. This is going to be addressing the foot and the hip related to knee pain. Because a lot of people get that internal rotation, which then causes what's called knee valgus, a lot of pain on the inside, stretching on the outside. So we're going to create that, what I call torque, by driving that knee out, almost out towards the pinky toe, I like to say. And you're going to go straight down, straight up in a split squat. We're not doing a forward lunge here. So you're actually going to go straight down, straight up. If you can't go all the way down and all the way up, that's okay. We can start with a smaller range of motion. The real goal of this exercise is not let your knee cave in on the way down or on the way up. So you got to keep that torque involved. You're going to feel your butt on fire if you're doing this right, as well as the muscle of your feet. So straight down, straight up. Work on a smaller range. You can hold on to something if you need to. Your ultimate goal is that you don't need to hold on to anything. Your upper body isn't going in either direction, and you can go straight down, straight up. This is just one example of an exercise that I have in my Chronic Knee Pain Fix course that we are going to go over to address the hip and the foot. There's going to be so much good in there. I can't wait to show you guys. It'll be demonstrations just like this. If you found this super helpful, I highly recommend doing my Chronic Knee Pain Fix course. It's going to have everything that you need to get you back to where you want to be. All of the exercises that are programmed are follow along videos, so you can be able to watch them back as many times as you need. I'm describing how to do the exercises just like I did for you right now. Not only that, but they're programmed out for you for 3 days a week at a month at a time. And you're going to be moving into multiple phases so that you're prepared for those kinds of movements. This isn't just a list of exercises. This This is very specific programming to really get you back into the things that you love and get you out of chronic knee pain, because I know what works and I've done it myself. I've also helped thousands of people get out of chronic knee pain. Not only are you going to get programming in this course, but you're also going to get education. This is something I really wish that I had. Things like this that we just talked about today. When you actually know what's going on with your body, that's going to help you heal so much faster. Because a lot of people live in fear, and I'm sure you feel kind of hopeless at this point. You don't know what's good for your body. You don't know what's going to hurt it more. When you actually have the facts and the research and you know what you're feeling and why you're doing what you're doing, that's going to help you continue to make progress and not take steps back. Things that I wish I knew when I first started my knee rehab journey when I was just 14 years old. Now, 18 years later, I've learned a lot. I became a doctor of physical therapy. I've done all these things with my own body, so now I can give that to you. I can't wait for you to finally get the results that you deserve. It's time for you to get out of this chronic knee pain.